Hi, this is Randy. I found an interesting excerpt from an article that's on health.am website. It's entitled Shared Psychotic Disorder, Folie, Deux, July 5th, 2010, and it was written by several MDs and a master's level person. Weinberg, Kornos, McKinnon, and Berkman. Going to skip down to something that I found interesting. Many highly detailed explanations of Folie Deux pathogenesis have been developed, yet none appear to explain all aspects of the syndrome. A survey of the literature shows that most of those afflicted with the disease are women with higher intelligence quotient scores who are usually younger than their significant other, their partner, their parent, their sibling, or their friend. The survey further suggests that the primary patients are susceptible to schizophrenia and often are diagnosed with episodes of paranoid delusions. I want to add that the typical Folie Deux patient who comes to the attention of the mental health professionals would be ones that are displaying beliefs that are extremely psychotic and unacceptable. They are not patients that are displaying plausible holes in reality. So there's reality, and then there's plausible definitions of reality, although it may still be completely off base. A partner who's displaying Folie Deux, but the delusions that they're sharing are not bizarre or totally off base with something that could be plausible, will not come to the attention of the mental health professionals and will not be detected. Let me go on reading this excerpt. Quite often, factors arise because of unhealthy or interrupted ego development during the early stages of life. As Freud suggested with his theories on the Oedipus and Electra complexes, children develop attraction to the opposite sex parent, developing a greater sense of self by comparing and resisting identification with their same-sex male or female parent, recognizing that each is similar to or different from themselves. This reminds me of the narcissist's tendency to admire and envy you at the same time. So their admiration to you or for you would be where they see themselves as similar to you, and their enviousness would be where they see themselves as less than you, or that you are better than them or different from them. If the relationship between parent and child is filled with jealousy, rejection, or anger, or if the relationship becomes more sexual than that of a healthy parent-child relationship, symptoms of Folie Deux generally express themselves. It's saying to me that if your parent of the opposite sex was rejecting angry or jealous of you, or had an inappropriate sexual relationship or blurred sexual boundaries with you, you may be more likely to develop symptoms or be susceptible to Folie, Deux, joining in on that parent's poor reality testing, psychosis. The adult child identifies inappropriately with the opposite sex parent and often perceives or has delusions of shared sexual intimacy with the parent. The person who has the disorder tends to form symbiotic relationships with a significant other who shares a common psychiatric disorder. Often they too are susceptible to unhealthy bonding, lowered self-esteem, and lack of personal responsibility that would otherwise foster healthy interdependence within intimate relationships. Studies of individual cases have shown that delusional ideas and psychotic symptoms are rarely transmitted to a healthy individual whose partner displays unhealthy behavior resulting from a psychotic disease. However, a passive person may have a genetic predisposition to psychosis and, as a result, may develop this disorder. I would tend to go a little further in saying that a somewhat passive person, or a person who has been kind of programmed into becoming more passive than they originally were once they get with a narcissist who has delusions, may become susceptible. Also, our mate is the opposite sex normally, and they can be a representation of that opposite sexed parent that may have been sexually inappropriate with us, jealous of us, rejecting of us, or angry. And this is, it's different, there's different levels, different ways of looking at this, that the child, the adult child who's the target, is trying to replay and master this previous frustrating relationship with their parent. So they're trying to redo the damage, and that may be a reason why they don't give up. That might be a reason why they're susceptible to joining in with the narcissist delusions. And since those delusions are not totally bizarre, it's not like the parent is saying that, you know, a transistor radio is talking in their head, or that people are talking to them through the TV directly to them. Those are more of the kind of bizarre and obvious psychotic symptoms. But if the parent is distorting reality, or the partner is distorting reality, like narcissists do, whether intentional or unintentional is a matter to be explored more, but doesn't really matter in terms of how it affects the target, because nonetheless the distortion is there. And that may be one reason why people are less susceptible to join in with a narcissist's delusions if they become close to that person. And if they're less susceptible to join in, they may also be more likely to leave the situation quicker and to recognize it as something extremely odd and aversive, rather than recognize it as something that maybe they already grew up with and are familiar with. They wouldn't be in a position where they're trying to master the relationship and kind of redo the relationship with their opposite parent as someone who grew up with a opposite parent who was narcissistic and delusional, abusive, might be trying to do. So anyway, I hope this helps a little bit more on understanding Folie Deux, and one of the hypotheses about it is that women who are of high intelligence and usually younger than the significant other, who is the identified psychotic, is those are the people that are most likely to fall into this shared psychosis. It does not mean that men can't fall into it. It does not mean that you couldn't fall into it if you were older or the same age. But it does show that the younger woman with the older man, father figure, older husband, is going to be more susceptible to falling into the shared psychosis with that individual. And then the same would go for a boy, a younger male with an older woman, the young male growing up with a mother or an older female sibling, and then later on in their relationships with an older woman could be more susceptible to falling into this Folie Deux situation, and it would not be recognized or identified as a mental issue because the delusions that are shared with the narcissist are not as severe as those that would be shared with a truly diagnosed schizophrenic. Okay, I hope this helps and maybe explains some things and helps you look at it in a little bit of a different way. This is a real mental health twist on the narcissist, and it focuses more on a thought disorder than a personality disorder. Thanks for listening.